Hey everybody, this is Mr. McKee again with Net 125. Today I'm going to be going over Packet Tracer 17.8.2, which is Skills Integration Challenge. Alright, and if you look up here, I've got a big addressing table. Alright, I have one router, router 1, which has 3 LANs connected to it with gigabit interfaces, and then a serial interface that goes out to another router, and then out to an ISP and out to a web server. Alright, notice the routers and the switches are have IP version 4 and IP version 6 addresses. Now the switches only have IP version 4, it looks like. All 4 of the, well, three PCs which are representing networks, notice multiple hosts listed. Alright, those are using IP version 4 and IP version 6 addressing. And then this web server is just for to make sure you can ping it. There's no really configurations necessary there. Alright, what else on this? Notice like we have IP version 4 address, IP version 6 address, and then a link local address. Alright, notice that for the gigabit interfaces as well on router 1. Alright, so the router central, ISP cluster, and the web server are completely configured. Alright, so everything over here is completely configured. Alright, you must create a new IP version 4 addressing scheme that will accommodate 4 subnets used in using the 192.168.0.0/24 network. Right, the IT department requires 25 hosts, the sales department requires 50 hosts, and the subnet for the rest of the staff requires 100 hosts. A guest subnet will be added in the future to accommodate 25 hosts. You must also finish the basic security settings and interface configurations on R1. Then you will configure the SVI interface and basic security settings on switches S1, S2, and S3. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is chop up our network into 4 subnets, and remember, start out with the highest amount of hosts and work your way down. Alright, so let me get out my calculator here, and remember, I purposely don't make a calculator that will just figure out the subnetting for me. I do it on my own from scratch. Alright, so this is what I got so far. Alright, notice we're doing a Class C address. If I can get this thing straight. Alright, there you go. Alright, so we're going to be over here on the 4th octet only. We're not going to worry about the first 3 octets, those will all be the same. Alright, our network address is 192.168.0.0. Alright, so that's going to be our very first subnet anyways, 192.168.0.0. I'm going to move this off the screen. Alright, notice right there, this is what I'm referring to, \24. So if I think about that, I have a possible 256 addresses, and I have 254 usable host addresses, right, until I start chopping everything up. Alright, so my first subnet will be, we'll start out with 192.168.0.0 regardless of how many hosts I need. Right, and I've already listed how many addresses I'm going to need for each subnet, so that's there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, if I look over here, and actually I put that's not subnet, that's the network address. Alright, so what I got to figure out is, I don't want to waste any IP addresses that I don't need to waste. So if I go over here, okay, \25 gives me a possible 128 addresses or 126 host addresses. Alright, so that'll work for my first network, which needs 100 hosts. So my first usable host address is going to be 192.168.0.1. Alright, and if I come over here and say, okay, that \25 is just the same thing as 255.255.255.128. Alright, And basically this is 256 minus 128 equals 128 possible addresses. That adds up. Alright, so I need 100. That'll work there fine. Alright, so now I need to figure out, I've got 128 possible. If my network is 1, alright, my very last address is in this subnet range is going to be 127. Alright, and remember 127 plus 0 is 128. So if I know that, I can go 1 less than that is 126. That's my last usable host address. Alright, if I copy this like that. Alright, notice network's even, broadcast is odd. We got a 50-50 shot there. Alright, so let's keep going. That's my last address in that subnet. So that'll be one more than that will be my first address in the next network. So the network will be 192.168.0.128. Okay. And up here, if I want to say, okay, usable an IP address in that range could be like a 192.168.0.1. For this, I'm not going to put that in there, but I always try to do this table the same way, so on this certification exam, I don't get it confused. Some people they'll reverse the network and the subnet. They'll have those in different rows, but it doesn't really matter. All right, but for this, the sales network needs 50 hosts. So if I come over here, \27 isn't enough. \26 will give me 62 hosts, so that'll work. All right, so that means my subnet will be 255.255. All right, 26 is the same thing as 192. And 256 minus 192 equals, all right, 64. All right, that makes sense. All right, so 192.168.0. First usable host address is 129, one more than the network. All right, so if we come here, okay, 128 is my first number, 63 more than that. I can get out my calculator for that. All right, so 128 is my first number plus 63 more. All right, 191, that would be my broadcast. 2.168.0.191. All right, one less than that is 190. And I just fill this in. All right, so now this one more than that broadcast is going to be the network for the next subnet. So 192. Notice it's an even number, so that's hopefully good. One more number than that is the first usable host address. Fill that in. All right, so now we need 25 hosts for the IT network. So 28 would be too small, 26 would be a waste. So \27 would give me 30 possible hosts, so that'll work fine. So that subnet will be 255.255.255.224. And I got that by doing 256 minus 224, and that's 32. Okay. So now I got to figure out, all right, 192 plus 31 more to give me 32. I will use my handy calculator for this. 192 plus 31 more equals 223. All right, so that's my host or my broadcast address. All right, one less than that, 222. All right, so that's looking good so far. 192 plus 32. Okay. All right, so the broadcast of that's 223. The network for the next subnet will be one more than that, 224. All right, I also need the same number of hosts for the guest network as the IT network. So if I just, as long as I calculated correctly there, right, so that should be 255.255.255.224. All right, so that looks right. That looks right. Notice my network address, the last octet's the same, but don't really get that confused. That really doesn't matter. All right, so 224 plus 31 more to make it 32. 224 plus 31. All right, 255. So that's the very last address in my network anyways. So that ends up perfect. 168, 0, 255. All right, so one less than that, 254 would be on last usable host address. One more than the network, 225. All right, first three octets that are host addresses anyways are not going to change. All right, so there we go. That is how our subnet's going to be broken down. Now, let me move this off the screen. All right, so if you read the instructions, it doesn't mention what IP addresses are assigned to what interface, but we're just going to assume that, okay, all the router interfaces will be the first usable address on each subnet. All right, so probably, you know, .1 for this one, .1 for the first one, .129, 193 for the third one, and so on. All right, it doesn't say that, but I would think it would, but we just have to assume that. All right. All right, so I went ahead and filled in my Word document with all my necessary IP addresses. Just, no, I don't want that comment. All right. So the first usable address will be our default gateways. The second usable address will be our SVIs for our switches, and the default gateway will be the interfaces. So this interface and then the subnet, the default gateways for each corresponding switch will be the same. And then down here, the third usable IP address in each network will be assigned to the PCs, to the hosts. All right. So what I did, went ahead and just to help you guys out, since I actually had errors in this packet tracer, I'm just going to show you guys how I broke that down. Hopefully it's going to be right. I can get it moved here. Come on. All right. So after I did my variable length subnet masking, all right, that's the first interface for this network. Same thing for that network. Notice my CIDRs I listed there. All right. The SVIs for all the switches. All right, that's the second usable host address, and then the default gateway for each of them is the first usable host address. So notice these aren't network addresses, these are all the first usable host addresses. All right, and then the PC's NIC, that'll give the third usable host address, and then the first usable host address for each will be the default gateway. Right? And then the web server, we don't really need to configure that. All right, so we did IP version 4 addressing. All right, PC configurations, configure the assigned IP version 4 address, subnet mask, and default gateway settings on the staff, sales, and IT PCs using your addressing scheme. Assign the IP version 6 unicast and link local addresses and default gateways to the staff, sales, and IT networks according to the addressing table. All right, so we're going to do all that together because that just makes sense. All right, let me scroll down. Now we'll start with staff. All right, and then we'll start right here. Now let's do IP version 4, which is 192.168.0.3. All right, backslash 25, remember, 255, 255, 255, barred 1 bit, so that'd be 128. Default gateway, 192.168.0.1. All right, IP version 6 address is going to be this right here, including the prefix. Whoops, I don't want that yet. All right, I want this. And then you have to take off the prefix 64. All right, the link local address is actually, we're going to use just the FE80::2. All right, default gateway is FE80::1. All right, kind of like that. All right, then let's do the sales. All right, 192.168.0.131. Sorry. All right, so it's a subnet mask is going to be a backslash. Sorry, that was loud. All right, now that I'm over my coughing spell, all right, so the sales is 192.168.0.131. It's a backslash 26, so we're borrowing 2 bits. 192. All right, default gateway 192.168.0.129. All right, IP version 6 address. I copy it just like that, but when I paste it, I've got to take out the prefix and add that, and then the link local is FE80::2. Default gateway is FE80::1. All right, then IT, same thing here. 192.168.0.195. All right, it's a 27. So 1, 2, 3. So 128, 182, 224. Trying to do that with counting on my fingers. All right, default gateway 192.168.0.193. All right, IP version 6 address. Take off the prefix. I'm just copying it like that because it's easier to copy it. All right, link local address is FE80::2. Default gateway is FE80::1. And remember, all these are the same. All the IP version link local addresses are all the same because they're all in separate networks or subnets. All right, that's why it looks kind of funny. Your default DNS server doesn't matter. All right, but before we go any farther, let's go ahead and look at our. Make sure I didn't make any boo-boos here. All right, network IT is good. All right, sales is good, and staff is good. All right, continuing on. All right, for some reason it's hard to get a hold of this. There we go. All right. So in the PC, now the router 1 configuration, we're going to configure the device name according to the addressing table, disable DNS lookup, assign encrypted privilege. Actually, let's go by it step by step. That'll be the easiest way to do it. So let's click on R1. Hit enter to get to the command prompt. Alright, so the device name according to the addressing table is up top, and it's just R1. So let's go to privilege exec and global config. Alright, host name is R1. Okay. And I know it's faster if I type all this stuff in exactly the same time, but it's not the way the instructions are reading. Alright. And then disable DNS lookup, no IP, no IP domain, no IP, no it's in fig t IP. Lookup. No IP. There it is. No IP. It was user error. No IP domain lookup. Alright, so that's that. Alright, assign Cisco ENPA55 as the encrypted privilege exec password. Alright, so enable secret, Cisco ENPA55. Just make sure you have a uppercase C for the first C in Cisco. Alright, encrypted privilege. Alright, assign Cisco CONPA55 as the console password and the enable. Oh, and then enable login. Alright. So line console 0. Password is Cisco CONPA55. Login. Alright, we enable login. I require a minimum of 10 characters be used for all passwords. Alright. Alright, so let's exit out of that. Alright, so security question mark passwords. Security passwords. And if I do that, if I do question mark, notice minimum length is the only thing to pick. Alright, minimum length is 10 for the number of characters. Okay, exit out of that. Alright, enable all plain text passwords, so service password encryption. Alright, so that's that. Create a banner that warns anyone accessing the device that unauthorized access is prohibited. So banner, message of the day, put a hashtag for delimiter, unauthorized access is prohibited, exclamation point. Alright, ending delimiter, in my case the hashtag. Alright, configure and enable all the gigabit Ethernet interfaces. Configure the IP version 4 addresses according to your addressing scheme, and configure the IP version 6 addresses according to the addressing table. Okay. Alright, and notice the way this is set up. Gigabit 00 goes to staff, gigabit 01 goes to sales, and gigabit 02 goes to IT. Alright, so now that we know that, we can do the interfaces. The interface gigabit 00, IP address, oops, IP address is right here, 92.168.0.1, 255.255.255. /25 is the same thing as 128. Alright, IP version 6 address. Yeah, I'm going to copy this because this will copy over exactly the same way. Copy, paste, just like that with the prefix included. And then IPv6 address, and it's FE80:1 for the link local. Alright, and that's that interface. Well, actually, let's do no shutdown. I usually forget that. Alright, now the interface is coming up. Alright, next interface is interface gigabit 01, IP address 192.168.0.129, and then a 255.255.255.26 is 128.192.192. Alright. Alright, IP version 6 address, and I'm going to copy this. Alright, so IPv6 address, paste that, and IPv6 address is FE80:1, link local. Alright, no shutdown. Alright, notice the interface is coming up. Alright, then I'm going to scroll up my instructions to gigabit 02. Alright, hit enter, interface, gigabit 02, IP address, 192.168.0.193, 255.255.255. Alright, so /27, 128, 192, 224. Alright, IPv6 address. I'm going to copy that. Control C, paste, make sure that's right. Alright, IPv6 address, FE80:1, link local. Alright, no shutdown. Alright, so those interfaces should be good. Now what I can do is I can do a fast forward time, and then I want to look, make sure everything's right. Alright, so IP domain name. Oh, I didn't specify the IP domain name. Well, I haven't even got to that yet. Right? Let's see. Yeah, I haven't got down to that yet. So we're not going to worry about that right now. But I'm going to look at all my ports. All those are correct. Right, notice I still have to set up SSH, usernames, VTY lines, and then my switches. But everything else looks good. Okay, I'm going to move this off the screen. Alright. So we're right down to page 3. Alright, configure SSH on R1. Set the domain name, and that's where I was seeing a red X for that domain name. That's it right there. Alright, let's exit all that. IP domain name is CCNA-lab.com. and we're going to create a 1024-bit RSA key. And so crypto key generate RSA. All right, and it asks me how many bits in my modulus. It'll be 1024. All right, it just created it. All right, so we're down to configure the VTY lines for SSH access. All right, so let's do. And actually, let's go do show run. All right, notice we have 5 VTY lines. So if we do line TY 0 to 4, all right, we're going to do the SSH. Transport input SSH. Use the local user profiles for authentication. Login local, yeah. All right, so create a user admin1 with a privilege of 15 and use the encrypted password of admin1 PA55. All right, so let me see if I can do this the first try. Let's exit out of that. All right, so username admin1 privilege 15 password admin1 PA55. All right, so that looks good. All right, configure the console and VTY lines to log out after 5 minutes of inactivity. So let's do the console first. Line console 0. Exec timeout. That's what we want right there. Exec timeout after 5 minutes of activity. Do a question mark. All right, timeout in minutes, so 5 minutes. All right, exit out of that. Line VTY 04. Exit. Timeout 5. All right. And then block anyone for 3 minutes who fails to log in after 4 attempts within a 2-minute period. Block anyone for 3 minutes who fails to log in after 4 attempts within a 2-minute period. Okay. Right, let's exit out of that. Log in and then question mark block 4. Alright, so block for 3 minutes, and if we do a question mark, time period in seconds. So 3 minutes would be 180 seconds. And if I did a question mark, attempts, set max number of failed attempts. 4 attempts. And if I did a question mark, one thing I can do is within, and if I did a question mark on that, time period in seconds, 5 minutes. Where is it? Block anyone for 3 minutes who fails to log in after 4 attempts within a 2-minute period, so 120 seconds. Okay. All right, so The router should be good. Let's take a look and see what we got. For some reason that username comes up wrong. I've done this twice just to see what it would do. That username is wrong. It's under usernames, incorrect. SSH config. Okay. Cisco CON. I'm gonna think that's grading it incorrectly because I've done that twice and I still get the same username. Incorrect. Because if I went to here and I logged out, let's see, exit. All right, so I'm logged out. If I log in using, let's see, console password is Cisco CNA 55. All right, so that's correct. And then privilege exec password. All right, Cisco ENPA 55. All right, so that works fine. The only other one I could think of that would be wrong would be the SSH. So if we try to SSH from IT, if I go to command prompt, can't use terminal, remember, because it won't let us connect any kind of connections, any kind of cables, like a console cable. We went here and we went, since SSH is turned on, we can come over here and go SSH-L and then put our host in, which our host in this case is going to be, for IT would be 192.168.0.195. 0.195. Is that wrong? SSH. Oh, SSH username. Alright, SSH. L. Alright, username admin1. Target is 192.168.0.195. I always do that. I'm trying to log into myself. Alright, what we should be logging into is .1. Alright, there we go. Now the password is admin1PA admin1PA 55. Alright, so it logs me in. So all the passwords are correct. I don't know why that's grading it incorrectly, but whatever. I'm going to continue to move on because I could spend forever trying to figure that out. But it's grading it incorrectly is what it looks like. And just to check, make sure it's still like that. Alright, yeah. Alright, so configure the device name according to the addressing table for the switches. So start at switch 1. Alright, enable config T. Host name is S1. And actually, you know what I'll do? I'll go ahead and do I'll set up the SVI and the default gateway while I'm at it. Alright, interface VLAN 1. IP address is 192.168.0.2 and 255.255.255.25 is 128. I always have to back up exit default gateway. IP default gateway. All right, there we go. And then 192.168.0.1. All right, so that looks good. Let's do S2. All right, so let's do host name. Enable T host name is S2. All right, IP address, interface VLAN 1. Address is 192.168.0.130 with a 255.255.255. So 26 is 128.192. All right, exit all that. IP default gateway is 192.168.0.129. All right, you like that. And I wonder if I got a actually, let's see, interface VLAN 1. No, oh yeah, I gotta turn it on too. Let me get back to S1, turn that one on real quick. All right, interface VLAN 1, no shut. All right, so we got that. Now let's go to S3. Right there. Enable MKT interface VLAN 1 IP address is 192.168.0.194 with a 255.255.255.127 or 27 is 128, 192, 220, 224. All right, let's do a little shutdown there and a exit, and then IP default gateway is 192.168.0.193. Okay, that looks good. Let's go to the insert instructions again. All right, so I did the device name, I did the SVI interface, configure the default gateway, disable DNS lookup, okay. No IP domain. No IP domain lookup. All right, this one. Okay, got that. All right, assign Cisco ENPA 55 as the encrypted privileged exec mode password. All right. And then while I'm doing that, assign Cisco con PA55 as the console password and enable login. Configure the console and VTOI line to log out after 5 minutes of inactivity. Encrypt all plaintext passwords. Okay, we can do all that together. All right, so enable secret, privilege exec is Cisco ENPA 55. find console 0. Password Cisco CONPA 55. Login local. Alright, so 5 minutes of inactivity. So exec timeout. Exec timeout of question 5 minutes. Alright, and then I want to do exit all that. MVTY04 exec timeout 5. Let's do a show run. Alright, we got to do the V2I line 5 to 15 also. 5 to 15. VT line, VTY, 5 to 15. Exec timeout 5. Okay, I think that's good for that one. Let's do show run. Alright, enabled secret, host name, no IP domain name lookup. Alright, there's that. Password, login local. So do we have a password? Alright, console password enabled secret. Alright, so it's service password encryption to enable all plain text passwords. Okay. There's 2. Alright, so we did no domain lookup, and then we'll do enable secret. Enable secret Cisco EMPA 55. Alright, so line console 0. Password is Cisco CONPA 55. Login. Okay. Configure the console and VTY lines to log out after 5 minutes. Alright, so we're in the console. So exec timeout of, make sure it's 5 minutes. Alright, 5. Alright, exit line VTY 0 to 15. Exec timeout 5. Alright, then let's do service password encryption. Okay, let's do show run. Alright, everything's set up on there, it looks like. Alright, let's do S3. and enable secret Cisco ENPA 55. Alright, and then configure console 0, Cisco CONPA 55. Password. Login local. Alright, so that's good. Configure the let's do exec timeout. Exit timeout 5. Find VTY 015. Exec timeout 5. Alright. And finally, let's do exit service password. Alright, 98%. So I missed something. Let me see what I missed. Alright, so that username's still not right, even though I can log into it and use all the passwords. Alright, and then host name of S3. Alright, so real quick I can do S3. And just to verify, alright, 99. Alright, but that's it. As I said a couple times, unfortunately, that thing's not greeting it correctly. I have the username set up. Let me just verify one more time. The only username I used was admin1. Now, I don't want to go in there and try to like do admin space 1 or anything like that. I'm just better off just leaving it as it sits. But that's it. 99 out of 100. I'll give you guys 100% if you submit it, just like that. All right, thanks for watching.